last-minute shake-up at 5:30 a.m., laundry situation not good. And when your focus is on helping your clients, it's easy to forget about yourself. But NASM knows trainers.
Morning, Ryan. It's okay.
And staying in front of the day isn't always
Thanks,
as simple
Ryan.
as 1,
What's
2,
up?
3. So when the unexpected has you pressing pause,
What's the latest on creatine?
I'm going to get back to you on that.
let NASM1 help you press play. Visit NASM.org to sign up for a membership today.
You're listening to Random Fit with hosts Wendy Batts and Ken Miller, winner of a Gold Markham Award for Digital Media.
Welcome to this episode of Random Fit with myself, Ken Miller, and my co-host friend, Wendy Batts. Wendy, how's it going?
I'm great, Ken. How are you?
I am doing awesome, especially because today we are on episode 3 on a 3-part series of the translation, basically, of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And on this episode, that hierarchy of needs is translated to longevity and wellness. So what we're going to talk about today are the keys to aging gracefully using that 5-tier system or that model that Abraham Maslow created in 1943. So Wendy, I'm actually looking forward to how you have applied these 5 levels of hierarchy towards your clients and I'm really keen on this. You and I talk a lot over time, but because you have clients of different ages, different backgrounds, different exercise histories, I'm really looking forward to how you approach aging gracefully with your clients.
Yes, I like how you said how you approach it with my clients because I need to work on it
And
a lot more with myself for sure. But I mean, everybody wants to feel better and age gracefully. Everybody wants to live long. And we've talked about the differences between, truly like your life expectancy and age in relation to where are you, like meaning your real age versus where you are in your body and your mind. And so I think that looking at the lifespan of that, everybody wants to be able to move and live their last day to the fullest. They don't want to be at home, bedridden, not able to talk, not be able to enjoy life, because is that really living? So with that, we look just overall at the exercise, nutrition, and sleep that somebody gets. So when you're looking at the 5 tiers, the first one is the physiological needs. So we look at that when you're just thinking about life in general, of like food, shelter, housing, water, the things that you need in order to survive. Well, when you're looking at it from longevity, you have to have exercise. We have talked about the importance of movement being medicine. And so being able to go outside and exercise, whether you go for a walk for 30 to 45 minutes a day, whether you go into the gym and lift, because there's going to be a balance that you're going to need. You need to work on your heart. You need to work on getting your heart rate elevated more so than when you're just at home doing things. And then you also want to think about, as we age, we start to lose bone density. So we need to be able to go to the gym. We need to lift weights. We need to work on maintaining strength, because as we get older, that strength starts to decline. And it starts to get scarier, because I can tell a huge difference from where I am today and where I was 20 years ago, not only just on how I feel when I wake up in the morning after doing the same type of workout, but then also to how my body's responding. Like, I'm not gaining as much muscle as I used to in the past. I'm not losing weight as fast, like at the same speed as I was in the past. And it is kind of frustrating. You're like, what is happening to me? And so I think really just looking at your nutrition, making sure that you're eating the right amount of calories, because we start to not move as much as we get older. So people start to gain weight, but they have been eating the same as they did 20 years ago. I'm using that example. But also, Ken, you and I have talked about this a lot, whether it's life, whether what's going on in life, whether it's stress, it's the amount of sleep. We did one podcast on sleep, and we were supposed to sleep, 8+ hours a day. I wish I could get sometimes half of that. And it's not necessarily because I don't make the time. It's like my body's not allowing me to sleep. So,
Well, it doesn't allow you, or you don't let it.
I tell myself, sleep, sleep, sleep when I'm laying down. And it's like, okay, this is what I have to do tomorrow, my to-do list.
And I think if you're visualizing this hierarchy of needs, again, physiological needs, again, it's hard to progress through the other tiers that we're going to discuss until the first one, physiological needs, and the way we're translating that into the keys to aging is, again, movement, meals, and sleep. I get clients, and I just had a consultation the other day, and this person hadn't done anything the last 12 to 15 years. She was growing her career, raising a family, and doing all the things that you do when you're at this stage of your life. But now she realized, I need to look at myself down the road, because I forget what the event was, but she had to walk for a certain amount of time or distance, and she was exhausted. So we started to talk about, well, how often are you working out? How often are you moving, which is nothing? What are you eating? She's like, it's just whatever's in front of me, whatever's quick, whatever's easy, whatever my children want to eat that day. And then sleep is, well, I go to bed after my kids and I wake up before them, right? So whether it's she has to do her job, and sometimes that'll take precedence over her getting to bed. But what we want to talk about with this level, this basic level of what it takes to age gracefully, is looking at, okay, just those three pillars of paying a little bit more attention to how you're moving, how often you're moving, getting started just with a little. And I've had clients that just start off with 15-minute walk around 2 or 3 blocks. Just walk out, put on your shoes, go outside, move, block off some time when it comes to your sleeping. If you don't sleep well that night, is there a way you can get 10-15-minute nap somewhere in the day? I know I've had a good day, of Wendy, if I can get a nap. But also, you have to pay some attention to what you eat. We're not saying you got to do things perfectly if you're starting from nothing, but if you pay attention to those three basic things of how often you're going to work out, how long you're going to work out throughout the week, what you're eating, are you getting your fruits and vegetables, are you getting your fiber, are you getting adequate amounts of protein? And then, like what you're saying, Wendy, when it comes to sleep, it's your superpower if you can get things going right. But 7 to 9 hours is what the recommend. It's going to be, it's highly individualized, whether whether it's life determinant or not. But for me, if I get 7 hours, I am golden. Like, well, I just found on one hand how many times I got 8 hours of sleep over just this year. But to pay some attention, making sure that the environment's right to get that sleep. But if there's any three things or anything you need to look at, it's your movement, your meals, and sleep.
100%. And you know what I think is also something that I do with my clients is I have them track it. Like, what time did you go to bed? Just have it by your nightstand. What time did you go to bed? And then what time did you wake up? And I think it's, if they don't have some kind of device that measures that for you, I'm using my Oura Ring. I have my Garmin. I check all different things to see how accurate. The one that looks the best is the one that I go with on accuracy anyway. But if you don't have a device to track that, I think it's important, because you'll be like, oh yeah, I went to bed and I slept this amount. Well, a lot of times when I look on my device, I'll say, oh, okay, I laid down at, let's say 10:30, but it doesn't show me falling asleep until 11 o'clock. And so just because it knows. So it's interesting, because you may think that you're doing something right, but how your body's responding to what that you're trying to do. But just like with fitness and just like with your workouts, remember, it's going to take time for your body to adapt to whatever you're trying to get it to do. So don't give up. That's the biggest thing is start, commit to it. And that's what I tell people. We're going to commit to trying to eat within this amount of calories. I'll give them an example of, like, this is what you love for breakfast. Maybe it's like some overnight oats. Maybe it's something that has higher protein milk in it. Like, now they have milk that's got 20 grams of protein within just like a small thing of milk, and they use that in their oatmeal. So there's ways of like sneaking things in, but providing some kind of idea of what a day would look like. And then they can kind of plug and play. Same thing with the recommendation on the rest and taking notes of it. But, if we look at that as our foundation, so that's level one. if you've been following along since episode 1 and 2, the names of the model isn't going to change. When we're looking at the hierarchy of needs, whether it's for fitness, whether it's for longevity, whether it's for performance, that physiological need is always going to be first. You have to have the foundational support of that. But then when we look at the next one and we start thinking of safety, this is where you need to find what's going to help you reduce stress management, really looking at recovery. If you're in the gym and you're working out really hard, but you don't do any foam rolling or stretching or some kind of percussion device or even recovery boots, something to help you recover faster, you're not setting yourself up to feeling better and really working within the physiological needs that you're trying to also maintain while you're looking at what's safe for your body, and then also not pushing yourself past the limits until you're physically and mentally ready.
And that's something that should be built in. If you're talking about, let's say, strictly your workout, your program, you're planning, I'm going to work out Monday, Wednesday, Friday, where it's going to be a total body workout, and Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, I'm going to do some cardio. But if you're planning out the stress that goes into your body, we also want to plan out how we take stress out of the body. I mean, just because things the way they are today aren't the way they were, as you like to say, when 20 years ago, right? We have social media, we have different political arenas right now. So there's a lot of stuff going on these days that, I mean, not saying that there was no stress 20 years ago, but the stresses are different. And if anything, they could be even more compounded with everything that's going on. But when it comes to stress management, that's the framework I talk to most of my clients about when it comes to, okay, why you would do a breathing technique, why you would incorporate yoga or Pilates. But I think that there's a lot of ways of managing stress and recovery that a lot of people don't realize are stress recovery techniques or stress management techniques. Like, Wendy, I have a good buddy. You know what his stress management technique is? He likes to cook. I'm like,
I'm coming to his house.
Let me know when you're stressed out, man, because I'm coming over. Right. So there's that. There's gardening. There's these different things. If you have a pool or a body of water that you can just kind of kick around in, not even like doing 1,000 yards of swimming, but just to swim around, splash around, just going in there. That's a way of recovery. Or even if you have a corrective exercise strategy or a planned out way of moving to improve mobility, use your core, get your balance right. And I'm talking, that's it. You're foam rolling for maybe 10, 15 minutes, stretching for another 5, 10 minutes, doing some core work for another 5 minutes. And you might have yourself a 30-minute session of recovery. It's exercise, it's movement, but overall it's designed to help you move more efficiently. If we can take stress off the joints, there's going to be a lot of translation to, well, if I don't feel as stressed physically, that can carry over into your mental mindset when it comes to how stressed you actually feel. There's a way, if you're feeling stress and your body actually reflects it by being achy and sore versus stress and your body is mobile, flexible, you're getting oxygen up and down from fingernails to toenails, then the perception of how stressed you are can actually be less.
Well, it's funny that you say that because, I am terrible at trying to just do some sort of meditation. I've tried, I follow apps, I listen to it. I have different noises on, white noise, green noise, black noise, you name it, all kinds of noises. And it just doesn't work for me because I can't stop thinking about whatever it is. And then I think about all this other stuff I should be doing. And if you're a lot like me, Ken, when you said cooking, it made me laugh. That is not my way of stress relief, but I clean house. That's my way of I will go through. And the reason I bring this up is the other day, I was vacuuming and somebody came to the door and my son, Tony told my son to go ahead and answer the door. Like, what is your mom doing? And usually I would stop and go to the door and check, but he was there paying attention and he's like, don't mess with her. Just let her finish vacuuming because he knew that I was stressed out. And afterwards I'm in such a better mood. And I don't know if it's a sense of accomplishment. It's a sense of okay, I at least did that. My house looks better, but it's one thing that works for me. So that's one thing I tell my clients who who always hear, well, you need breathing techniques, you need to sit down into a peaceful environment. That is something, if you can do, would be amazing. If that helps you reduce stress and clears your mind and moves you past through whatever you're going through, that doesn't work for me. And so it may not work for them. And so now my new thing, besides vacuuming, it would be going for a walk. And Ken, you know, I've had multiple conversations because I've had to go for a certain amount of walks throughout the week. And I'm talking to you and I just feel better now. I'm not winded. It's not as hard for me to do the same task that I started doing when I started. But then afterwards, I just feel so much better. And so don't just assume it has to be meditation or breathing, but you've got to find what works, because stress management, if you are stressful, guys, it does a lot to your adrenal system. It does a lot to your system at night, your parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system. They're not in balance. It's not good. And it can make you sick long-term if you're not healthy or you're not careful.
Yep. And I'll say, with you bring up vacuuming, my thing is yard work. Even though I've got the blower, I've got the lawnmower, it's loud, and my wife will say, how is that relaxing when you got all the motors and the sounds? I'm like, well, I think you brought it up, Wendy, when it's a matter of I've raked everything up, all the leaves and all the grass and all the trimmings are put away. I've picked up twigs and branches and things like that. And I can look at the yard saying, well, half my lawn is dead, but it's actually cleaner. It's cleaner.
Yeah. So, you feel better. Well, Ken, yeah, right. Well, before we get into our third, I'm going to go ahead and take a quick pause and tell you that this episode of Random Fit is brought to you by NASM One, the membership for trainers and coaches. Members enjoy unlimited access to hundreds of career resources. Get the Edge app to schedule and program clients, enjoy half off all certifications and specializations, access free CEUs, and more. All of this for just $35 a month. Go to nasm.org/membership to learn more about NASM One. So Ken, just to recap, let's talk about Physiological Needs Foundation. Must have it. This is where we're going to be sleeping well, eating well. We're going to get our bodies straight and right. Number 2, we're talking about stress management. So when we're thinking about safety, we're looking at stress and what we can do to relieve it. Then sense of belonging, love and belonging. Again, this is where getting involved in your community, getting involved in a team sport, getting involved with the parks and recs like you are. I think all of that, just having a sense of belonging and having the friendships and social life outside of the day-to-day work that you're constantly doing, just something completely different, I think is something that engagement does a lot for the step 1 and 2 that we just talked about, but it's also going to help you have more enjoyable life, and you're more accountable for something. You're able to manage things better. I don't know. I like that one a lot.
I like it from the vantage point that there's that accountability. If you're missing, if you haven't done something for a while and there's people that say, hey, we missed you on our walk last couple days. Where have you been? What have you been doing? So the fact, I like being missed. I don't know if it's just me, if I'm just wacky and kooky that way. But when somebody notices when you're not there, that sense of community is important, because now I feel like, well, I do have a good time with them. They miss me. They're holding me accountable. And you know what? They're right. They're right. I should be there. I should get out. But sometimes life happens. But it's good to have that little text saying, hey, are we going to meet at 5:00 for this 1.5 mile walk, whatever the situation is. So that sense of community is also there. But the one thing, Wendy, that you and I both do is when you go on your outside walks or I go on my outside walks, the fact that we have this Garmin and the fact that we can connect, right? I don't know if you've done this, but I have clients that also have Garmin, and when they do an activity and it synchronizes, I get a notification because they're my clients, and it shows that they went on a 7-mile bike ride. It shows that they went on a 45-minute run. And from that vantage point, that community is more virtual based, but I can see that, hey, Frank, great job. You're outside for 20 minutes. I saw your heart rate. I saw where you were. I don't know if that's too much information, but the fact that I can see that he worked out hard, he did it for a certain length of time, which deserves a certain, certainly a pat on the back. But even virtually having that community, it's something to be, said for when it comes to, there is accountability from that standpoint. And when I see him, I can talk about it because he's my client. I don't see him every week, but when I do see him, it can be, hey, I see you've been working out hard, but going back to an earlier point, how are you recovering from this? Are you foam rolling? Are you stretching? Are you doing things to offset the physical stress that you put into your body, which a lot of clients could. So I'm taking advantage of it from different vantage points, but having that sense of community, he knows that I can see what he's doing. And, there's that certain level of, okay, I know Ken's watching. I know he's going to hold me accountable when it comes to me reaching my goals. And Frank is 74 years old, and he's absorbing technology. He's using this as a network to be taken advantage of when it comes to holding him accountable for his workouts.
Oh, yeah. And I think too, that sense of belonging. And that kind of brings us into number 4 when we look at esteem. And many of you guys know I have an elderly father. He just turned 84 last Friday. And one of the things that is hard for him now is his mobility and his strength. And he used to play golf every single day. And he was doing just fine out throughout all of his 70s, late into his 70s and early 80s, until his wife got sick. And then he had to stop doing his physical activity to take care of her, which is great that when you're able to support your loved one and be there at a time of need. But he stopped working on himself. And now he's losing his mobility. He's losing his strength. He's losing his balance. And what ends up happening with our elderly population, and when we really think about what this whole episode is about, of aging gracefully, you start to then maybe even lose your independence over time if you're not careful. And you've got to think through, what can you do as you age in order to make yourself mobile? Movement is medicine. I'm going to say that until the day I die. It is actually one of the fitness trends, and hopefully that's not a trend, but there is a lot of research behind the importance of moving, because when you don't use it, we lose it. And so I think when you can move freely, like your client, he's out there pushing himself. He's 74. He's pushing himself to the limits. Even a little bit of something is better than a whole lot of nothing. That's a Rick Ritchie saying. And that functional movement is going to translate to qualities of daily living. And if you start losing that, you're eventually going to have to leave your own home, leave living by yourself, and maybe moving into some kind of assistant, whether even if it's independent living, you're still not living by yourself. And you might be having your own room or your own place, but there's other people around you in case something happens. And that starts to scare people as they age. And so I always tell everyone, if you don't want to be that person and you don't want to be put in that situation, you have to keep moving, and we're going to help you do that. So something to think about with aging parents, aging clients, yourself, because it's going to translate into, when you're in your 80s, can you still do what you want to do? And you need to start planning for it now, because that will creep up. And I keep using 20 years from now rather than in the past. Are you still going to be able to do what you think you want to do or should be able to do then?
And yeah, I mean, and Frank is a definite testament. He's a guy who, just as a great example of somebody that, who wrapped his arm around the concept that it's never too late to start. So with what we're talking about with Frank 74, he just really started working out last year, right? Had a health scare, spent a career, still busy, still working, still on the workforce. And, he's in tech, so he's still able to do his job well behind the computer screen, not physically demanding, but now he started, and the doctor said, if we don't make changes today, things aren't going to turn well or going to be well for you within even the next couple of years, just because of his markers. So he's on a bike, he's walking, he's rucking, He's got that weighted pack. He's doing push-ups. What I had to help him out with was more of his mobility. And from that vantage point, yeah, his goal is, I don't want to be dependent on anybody. I don't want my children to have to pick me up, bring me somewhere so I can get, so I like my independence. I like being able to get up when I want to get up and go where I want to go. I think there's a song in there somewhere, but he's somebody who likes to be able to live his day as he wants to live it, outside of work, of course. But from that vantage point, it's never too late to start. With even within the 3 months, he took a little hiatus off of work, went back for a reevaluation, and the doctor said, "What are you doing?" Because he's lost 20 plus pounds. He's standing more upright, and his blood pressure and his heart rate, even though they're not perfect, they're a lot better than where it was when he first started having to see his physician. But overall, he's doing great, and he's trending perfectly as he wants to, because he wants to live till he's 100, right? That's his goal, and he's definitely making strides to make it there.
I love it. That's a goal. That's something. All right. Well, we're thinking about the hierarchy of needs, especially when we're thinking about longevity. If we look at the model, so just to recap, we've got our foundational phase, which is our physiological needs. Then we have safety. Then we have belonging. We just talked about esteem and being able to do whatever you want to do for as long as you want to do it, but making sure you're making the right strides to do so. The last one is the self-actualization phase, which is at the top. And this is truly when we're thinking about active aging and the lifelong vitality of your life. So you're finding your balance between physical, mental, and emotional health. And as we get older, we start sometimes slowing down on the cognitive side. So challenging yourself mentally, challenging yourself physically, which again, we talk about more so than anything, but then also to the mental side of it. If you have really good balance, that's going to prolong your life to the fullest, meaning that when you're thinking about your lifespan, you're going to be able to be more active, be able to do more things with your family and friends and your community. And you've just got to sometimes take a step back and reevaluate, maybe out of those 3 major pillars. So again, if you're thinking about the emotional side of it, the mental side of it, and the physical side of it, is there one pillar out of those 3 that maybe is lacking something? And maybe you put a little more focus on that until you find that balance. Because I know for myself, I'm really good in 2 out of 3, and I'm really trying to focus and hone in on the one that I'm not good at. So therefore, maybe I am more well-rounded. Ken, what do you think? Think I have a chance?
I think you got a chance. And for those points that you're not,
So you're saying there's a chance.
So you're saying 1 in a million.
Oh.
I love that. I got to watch that movie again.
Love that
but
movie.
When it comes to active aging and being up there, Wendy, I bring up my Rise and Shine morning group. These gentlemen, average age is 70, early 70s, and one of the participants, Greg, his mother just celebrated her 100th or 101st, maybe. I think it was her 100th birthday. So a lot of the family from California went out to Florida, where she is, and celebrated her. And what he shared with me, Wendy, is that she's 100. She still drives. She has, for all the things that we've already talked about, she's got a strong social network. She has this group of friends that she sees basically every day. She goes for a walk. She cooks for herself. She does the crossword puzzle. And Greg, when he's visited her, he's put her on screen. She's in the background when we're doing our virtual workouts, and she's as sharp as a tack. I've seen it for myself. She hears what I'm saying, and she responds with wit and charm and humor. So she's got it mentally and physically, and that's basically what we're talking about with active aging. She's active, she's social, she's moving, but she's also got this in a routine. She's been with this group of friends. She's exercised. She cooks for herself. So she cooks for herself well-rounded meals. She is in a a senior living home, but overall she still takes care of herself within her own household, right? So from that vantage point, she has incorporated habits that she does every day with how she eats, how often she moves, her social. So I look at her as an example of, okay, well, when I'm 100, which is, I've got some years ahead of me till before that happens, but that's the template that I've seen in her and maybe one or two other people that I've had a chance to cross paths with, that they're social, they're moving, they're hydrated, they don't incorporate any of the traditional vices, but it's worked for them. And that consistency, that weekly or daily approach to what they do is the key to how and they always say, I do this every day, right? These are the things that they've done to get them to where they are.
Yep. You just have to find what works for you. Everyone's a little bit different. Apparently, our producer thinks I'm a little odd because I vacuum all the time. But you know what? You just go out there with your blower there, Ken. I will continue with my vacuuming. And
Yeah.
but on Random Fit, if you guys are listening, you've got to find what works for you. And hopefully you're going to go through these 5, go through all 3 episodes. If you didn't get a chance to visit episode 2 and episode 1, you need to do so because they all have little nuggets. While it's all still the same 5 concepts and theories of the hierarchy of needs, Abraham Maslow, who was the creator of this in 1943, when he came up with it, again, this is something now that they've translated into business, they've translated into fitness, they've translated into just home life. And I think there's always something that if you have that strong foundation and then you start building upon that, but starting with yourself, no matter what the outcome is, you're going to see that the 5 steps in this hierarchy will play an important role in order for you to live longer, move better, feel better, and perform at your highest level.
Agreed, 100%. So Wendy, I appreciate you sharing your insights and giving a little bit about how you've lived through fitness, wellness, and on our way to longevity. So with these three episodes dedicated to how it's translated to those 3 aspects of movement, let's just say, thanks for everything that you've had to share. And for those of you listening to both Wendy Batts and I, Ken Miller here on Random Fit, thank you so much for sharing a part of your day with us. If you like what you had to hear and want to hear more on subjects that you want us to talk about, please let us know and we'll have it on in a future episode. But until then, like, follow, subscribe, download, share, and give us a 5 out of 5 rating when you have a moment. We'd really appreciate that. Just let us know that we're doing the job you want us to do. So until next time, everybody, take care and be well.